Our first story deals with a subculture of heavy metal music that some feel is sending a dangerous message to your kids.
The forces of evil on the dark side of devil rock.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
And we just mix it up with hardcore and aggression and come out with something we think's an original sound.
Loud, fast, heavy, you know.
Well, what do you got?
What do you got?
You're listening to Riff Worship, the podcast that attempts to answer the age-old question, what makes a riff? Why do we care about the riff? Talking about some of our favorite albums containing riffs. I am Austin Paulson, one of your hosts. With me, as always, is the great Bald Hope, the great Baldini, Dylan Adams. Dylan, how are you doing today?
Beautiful, bud. Absolutely beautiful.
You're always
got a little sun on the old dome. We're doing good.
We have a wonderful guest today. This is a band we have been itching to talk to for a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people have been itching to hear from for a while. This is kind of as part of an forthcoming release, Moon Healer, which will be out on February 23rd through Metal Blade Records. We are joined by none other than the bassist of Job For A Cowboy, Nick Schendzielos. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really good. I'm pleasantly surprised that you must have looked up how to pronounce that name.
You provided a very good cheat sheet for how to do it, so thank you.
Okay.
For that.
Yeah, usually it's like never. It's probably been like 4 times in my life that people have like just not on the opening. How do I say it? You know, like just get it just because it's like the D and the Z don't sound like a J when you read them in English, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you're like, you know, so anyways, but I'm good, man. I'm doing really good. I switched to Diet Coke from coffee because I was doing a coffee per interview. And then I was like, oh shit.
Oh man.
Like, 8 cups of coffee.
Well, I guess I want to congratulate you on this album. I'm sure, you know, it's been a kind of a long time coming, as we mentioned, a lot of starts and stops from what I understand, with the album kind of literally just days away. How do you feel? Like, what's going through your head right now?
You know, gratitude. And then like, it's this funny thing. I used to get this on tour sometimes, where it would be like sort of almost like a pre-nostalgia, you know, like you're experiencing the present moment from the future in kind of like a reminiscent way. It's kind of where it's at with it. Cause it, like, you know, like I was saying before we started, this has been such a long chapter of my life. I went on, I love riding motorcycles, right? And I did this thing one time, I bought a brand new motorcycle. And it was cool to like develop a relationship with a machine. Not like the My Strange Addiction guy, but just, you know, regular platonic love for my motorcycle. But anyways, like it was cool because like I'm like riding around the mountains. I explored more Colorado getting a motorcycle than I ever have in my life. And I'm riding by Evergreen, where I was, you know, born and grew up. I mean, I was born down in Denver, but, you know, grew up in Evergreen, and it's in the mountains. And I'm looking down on my bike and I see my mileage and my odometer. I'm at 1,982 miles. And it was like the year I was born. And so it was so crazy because like, I don't know what it was, but it was like just linked up right then. I was like, oh, I should get off and like ride up to my old house up here. And it was like, as the mileage in my bike was going up, I was like recapping my life, you know? And I was like, oh, 82. Okay. So I would have been born here. You put together any fuzzy memory you can from when you were, you know, a toddler, you know, pretty blurry, but then you start being like, oh, okay, 85. Oh, that's when my parents got divorced. Okay. And then 86. And like, I'm watching and riding and like recapping my life. And I realized once I got to, you know, 2005 or whatever, so 20 miles later, whatever it was, that everything became based off of music. Everything became based off of like what record I was working on, or what tour I was on. And it was kind of crazy because I was like, well, records generally are like a 2-year span, you know, for the most part, there's that 2-year cycle,
right?
That, you know, at least in metal that we sort of adhere to. And it was like realizing that somebody had just talked about some kind of a similar parallel that they were drawing. But I thought back to that day when I was doing this sort of life recap as the miles were going up, matching on my odometer. And I realized like this record is like not just 2 years, you know, this is like a minimum of 6 of hard work, you know, and then like probably 2 to maybe even 3 of like lighter conceptualizations and stuff. But like, it's such a massive chapter of my life that it's almost like a little sad, you know, that it's like, here's the end of the press, and then the record's out, and then you know, 3 months ago, yeah, we put Moon Healer out back then. That was crazy, man. Remember that whole time of your life, that whole massive thing. So that's kind of my headspace with it right now. But also, you know, gratitude that, you know, it's getting received pretty darn well, man. I mean, getting so many compliments from friends and touring people and then press people and everything. And so we're just really grateful that people give a shit, I guess, after that long, you know?
Well, I certainly appreciate you spending the time to talk to us about it. And, you know, you kind of mentioned like, you know, kind of a multi-year spanning process. You know, I read in our research that, you know, this really kind of got serious maybe around like the 2018 mark. But from what I understand, you had some of these on demo as early as like 2014. So it's really taken an evolution over like the course of a decade. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of mental. I mean, Tony just doesn't stop writing. So like, that's the thing that's crazy about it right now is I'm like, oh, well, shit, hopefully it's not. That's what I was thinking too. And I was like, well, how do you know, this is a question I just saw Sean Lennon pose the other day. And I feel like you guys would be good people to ask this because you seem like intelligent blokes. But is nostalgia, because like this, you see this whole big wave of nostalgia. Like people be like, oh, jfac, like, man, when I got Sun Eater in my fucking senior year of high school, you know, like now it's their 10-year anniversary. So, or a 10-year high school reunion, you know? So like this whole kind of nostalgic element of things. So like, is nostalgia just another form of depression?
Damn. Well, and you know, maybe we've been talking about this a little bit too, as far as like nostalgia. You're wearing a Mastodon t-shirt right now. I mean, with this big tour coming out, you know, the 2004 tour, you know, it's definitely got me kind of thinking about, I mean, Dylan, I know 2004 was certainly a big year for you getting into music. I don't know. What do you think? Is it,
man, that hit on a sub level that I never thought it would.
That knocked me right when I read it,
man.
It was an X thing. And I was like, oh yeah. I mean, yeah,
I could see it.
Right.
For sure.
Cause it's not I guess it's like, is it like a pleasant sadness?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's like certainly a lot. I mean, really, yeah. I mean, you're longing for like a time really, or just like that first, I feel like I've always been trying to chase that moment of like that maybe that initial riff or that piece of music that I heard.
Yeah.
And maybe when I'm like listening to something new that maybe touches it, I'm like, man, remember that one time I was sitting there and I just heard fucking Ashes of the Wake for the first time, or this and that.
Yeah,
like,
I remember that.
Like it's searching for that feeling. There's that collective group of people that will always say, you know, it's good, but it's not as good as like insert band, right? It's not as good as insert album. It's like, hey, I remember when Master of Puppets was out. Nothing's ever going to be as good as that, or, you know, debatably. And it's like, yeah, I could see that. I could see that, just trying to hold on to that one last kind of glimpse of what you remember and what was youthful and that same energy.
Is it? Yeah. I wonder if it's like, is it because we were younger, healthier, maybe happier, you know, and in those times, and you're like, oh, back when, you know, when those records came out, or when you first started, you know, getting into a particular band or whatever it was, that like you were more carefree. You were less jaded and less beaten down by the fucking world, you know? So like, but is it almost, I'm like, is it like a rejection of the present? You know, is nostalgia like rejecting the goodness of the present moment that you're in, whether it's art you're viewing or, you know, the people you're with, whatever, but you're sitting there feeling nostalgic is literally like longing. So it's missing something. So something's not there that you would like to be there that can't ever be there again.
I mean,
fucking,
damn, Nick,
that's good.
What are we doing here, man? I'm gonna have to take a shower after. Yeah, let me go for a walk after this interview, dude. You know, but I think you're certainly onto something. I mean, like, you know, with all even within just this 10-year gap of like between albums, like we certainly maybe digest art and music a lot differently than we did even then. Like, you know, that carefree thing. Like, I wasn't worried about, you know, the certain trends or whatever's going on. I try to continue and, listen to albums from start to finish. But, what are there any trends that you've noticed within this kind of gap that, you've still remained busy in several projects since then? What's changed in 10 years?
I remember a meme coming out, and I'm not going to take credit for this because there are way too many amazing bass players that were loud and present in the mix before me. But I did see a couple memes like right when around Sun Eater was coming out, and it was like the what the fuck is the show? I never watched it because not watching it was like the new vegan. I forget. Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Gotcha.
And there was, the winter's coming, brace yourself. So it was like, brace yourself, the loud bass mixes are coming, after like with a picture of the Sun Eater on it. So I did sort of notice like, and it's probably more just like, oh, you get a fucking a white Mazda CX-5. So now all of a sudden the same amount of white CX-5s are around, but now you're noticing them that, whatever that reticular activation network of our brain that like pays attention to things. So could be that, but I did seem to notice that like it became, and maybe it was just time, like I said,
right.
It doesn't have shit to do with me, but like, maybe Jason and Johnny having the balls to, push the bass up in the mix that much. But it did seem to be like, oh, cool. Like it's cool to be a bass player in a metal band now. You know what I mean? Like, cause for a while, like it was like, oh yeah, who wants to play the dum stick?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
who is getting slagged off with that one? Like who is having to pick that up? No person in their right mind is ever picking a bass as the first instrument at all.
Yeah. They don't get chicks. They don't get paid. They're not, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, no, so that's kind of one thing that I noticed. I've also noticed too, that like, I think if we were to come out with maybe Sun Eater now, but I guess we're kind of, with having the sister record with Moon Healer, very similar, but I think if we were to come out with like Demonocracy now, it would have done way fucking better than it did in 2012.
I could see that.
Because the tech thing is like just fucking way bigger now. I mean, Archspire and fucking massive. These bands are really fucking blowing up, and rightfully so. It's the talent is undeniable on this shit. But back then it was a little much. It was like the fucking Marty McFly, fucking your kids are going to love this.
It's, to kind of piggyback off the nostalgia thing. Like obviously I'm sure Job For A Cowboy's had to deal with that, even playing a few shows here and there with like, you've got this whole generation of kids that grew up listening to the Doom EP, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I'm sure that the questions that even you get asked, who wasn't even in the band at that point, it's like those kids are definitely coming up to you and asking like, who knows what they're saying about that EP, right? Who knows what they're asking about it? And it's like, yep, there's nostalgia. That's that one period of time they thought was so pure. Like maybe they heard it the night they like, got to second base the first time, or like, their first car ride out to the lake or something like that. Or like, who knows what it was, right?
Sure.
And they just want to remember that time.
You're right.
And it's mind blowing to think about that we all and particularly like, I know I'm an older millennial, and Austin's a couple years younger than myself. And it's like nostalgia has hit big time for the millennials. So it's just like, shit, what are we going to do once this feeling's gone?
Damn.
I mean, well, you get your Apple Vision fucking goggles, and you can literally just put an overlay on and walk through the world as if it is whatever year you were most fond of,
Damn.
You're like, look at the flight changes the flight. I know that sucks. Oh man, future sucks. But yeah, I think it's funny too because it's not that you don't want to deny people that side of it. You know what I mean? Like I still am always like, man, I goof around with Johnny and I'm like, we gotta just fucking come on. Let's just take maybe 1 month and let's just write Doom 2. And just like fucking, dude, God. You can make so many fucking kids so happy, dude, or older adults now. But yeah, and it's funny too. So what year were you born?
I was born in 90.
90? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So you're an older millennial. Then I'll give you that. I'm like 82. which like they now technically because our like spot was basically like, do not fucking call us millennials. Like we're not Gen X, but so they termed like from like 79 to like 84. They call Zennials or Exennials.
I've heard that.
Yeah. Because we're like, oh, we still came home when the street lights came on.
Right.
You know, grew up without cell phones, grew up without technology, but like Nintendo came out when we were 7, you know? So, and we can still rotate a PDF 90 degrees. So it's like, we're kind of in that limbo in between spot. But I think back to like all those little different elements that like make you who you are. And maybe that's kind of more into the nostalgia thing, is it's about like they're formative records. And when you're in your youth, like that's who you're choosing really your, you know, what identity group you want to fit in with, or what, you know, who you are, what defines you as a person and what you want to align yourself with. And so, and music is like the primary way I think that most, at least Western humans do that, you know, is like you are who you listen to, and then that's why you're going to listen to the political leanings of the fucking singer of the band that you listen to over than, you know, a politician, you know, because you're like, oh, well, I you know, this guy, he gets me, even though he doesn't know me, you know what I mean? It's like, but it's such a massive part of the developmental process of who we are. And so maybe the nostalgia kind of has some connection to that, as it's like, you know, wanting to get back in touch with, you know, what made us who we are, you know. I think that could be a key component of it. And for the lineups and stuff that you see in bands, you know, especially like fucking calling it the pop punk thingy, calling it remember when we, or, you know, whatever, when we were young.
Yeah.
Like fucking wow. They knew like that was like Facebook, you know, red, specifically choosing red for the notification because, you know, the fucking casino experts are like, this is going to create dopamine, you know, every time you do it, calling it that. They were like, we're cashing in on that fucking nostalgia dollar. And I'm here for that too. So, you know, let's go.
We kind of touched on, you know, bass playing and whatnot. I mean, when I listen to this record and just over and over again, I feel like you can certainly enjoy it as like a unit, like a culmination of, you know, just great lyricism and musicianship. But, you know, every time I got into it, I felt like, oh man, I just hear like a little detail of this, like guitar playing here is awesome. Naveen's fill here is great. But like one thing that I found myself saying over and over again was this is like truly a great bass record. Like you are so audible. It sounds like that tone is so clean. You know, you're like the slaps and the taps in different parts. Like, I feel like you're just like, oh man, Cryptopsy? Fucking hold my beer, man. Like whatever. Here, listen to this.
Ollie's great though. Yeah, but yeah.
With a song like Into the Crystalline Crypts, you know, that was so noticeable. I
think that's Gwen. I still don't have the songs. As what their real names are. Like we have pet names for all our songs. Like
gotcha.
And, I think that's Gwen. I'm pretty sure.
Just from the moment that song kicks in, you know, it's just it hits you right in the chops. What goes into crafting your parts for a song like that?
So I try to I really try to look at bass, especially like in extreme metal, like vocals in a way, but like melodic vocals. So I mean, I'll even like, I've had this exercise given to me from, I can't remember where back when I found it. It might have been even back in the Wooten camp days when I went to one of those. But it was like, listen to a speaker, you know, like a public speaker, or even singers, and like instead of like, you know, playing along to the track and playing the bass line, like learn the singer's line. And because our ears are so like commensurately tuned to paying attention to the vocal range and to vocal phrasings and to speech phrasings, that's where like 90% of listeners that don't play other instruments, like that's what they're listening to. That's why so many people like turn on fucking, you know, extreme metal and are like, what the fuck is Cookie Monster? What is going on? Like, what are you mad? You know, it's like, that's because they're not listening to the music. They're listening to the vocals because they're not musicians. And so I've always tried to like emulate, like the human voice, I guess, in a way, or at least the phrasings of it. I like it to, like I'm sounding like I'm trying to like express something. And to do that in a way though, where I'm still trying to perform my perfunctory role of providing the foundation of the music, right? Like holding the low end of the thing, giving it a fat, beefy low end, in conjunction, combining those rhythmic elements with the melodic elements of the guitar. So like you glue the two of them together, and then how you choose to like write that line and make that squiggle line of glue together is, I think, for me, that's where I can kind of let my creativity shine. And a lot of it comes from just, combining or trying out a lot of different techniques. There's a lot more technique on this album than on Sun Eater. And I think it was partially because Naveen brought a lot of crazy like jazz stuff. He really did an incredible job of coming in and providing a new palette of like rhythmic things to connect to. And then, Jason Sukoff has a pretty firm hand, like such a strong grasp of melody. I'll be like, okay, here's what I hear for that part, and see, here's what I hear for that part, and it'll be like, move that finger down one fret and move that finger up one fret. And I'll be like, oh shit, that's fucking weird and really cool, And so like we kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and I'll be like, oh, how about something like this, and he's like, no, so we there is an interplay, and I do wait too. So I feel like spontaneity is a pretty big part of it too, because the guitar parts are going to change when they go through the Jason Sukoff filter. And because the drum parts are going to be not defined and be 100% till that record's like, till it's done. I don't like spend a lot of time pre-writing my stuff. So I love that, like the element of like, I don't know what I'm going to write for this, but let's just fucking go into the room. And 4 hours later we come out with a track and like, well, that's fucking cool. Where did that come from? So there's all those little different elements kind of play a part,
That's so cool. And yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned Jason being kind of an integral part. I mean, he's obviously worked in the, with the group for several years, outside of maybe kind of shaping how a particular song is arranged. Like, how does he differ from someone like Dave Attero or like Mark Lewis?
Sukoff, I think they're all very, very, very good in what they do. They all have incredible ears, not just for tone, but for melody. Otero's got a fantastic ear for melody as well. His is it's crazy because like he's a lot of times I think there's a band called Extol, and it's like Christian black metal basically, I think, and they have these like almost like church-esque harmonic structures. You know what I mean? It's always very like angelic, and like it's just that their use of harmony is incredible, and I know he's a pretty big fan of that. So a lot of times when Otero makes a suggestion, and maybe it's just the music that I'm working with him at the time, that his suggestions will always be like very religious sounding.
Gotcha.
Even though he's fucking not. So but Sukoff has this like real strong, his playing is incredible. Like he's a fucking insane guitar player. So that really helps because he can pick up a bass and just be like, check this out. What if it's something like this? And then like, he's like a minute into the song. I'm like, hey, can I have the bass back? Like I want to play on my own record. But and then we go back and like, let's tweak this part and I'll do this and re-record that. But so I mean, a lot of trust almost with all those guys. And it's like, they really do contribute as much into records coming out the way that they do, as almost a sixth member of the band would be, with those type of dudes. And like at 90% of the things that they do, you're like, or suggest, you're like, oh, that's fucking brilliant. You know what I mean? Whereas like, if it was like some other person, you'd be like, no, we're over here doing our thing. More times than not, you're like, fuck, that's fucking awesome.
One of the, you didn't just play bass on this record. You also provided some, like direction as far as like music videos are concerned, like imagery.
Sure.
Like, what was it like to, have you ever directed a music video before? I know you're kind of creative in your YouTube channel, but was this something that was always kind of like, I need to do that? That sounds fun.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those deals where my buddy Kyle Lamar has a company called Digital Mile, and I started working with Kyle. Like actually, the very first time was with Havok when I was filming like my exit from the Havok band. We, we're very cool with each other, so we were like, let's make it fun. And so I went and worked with them, and I was really impressed with them. And I started working with him with helping out some friends in a band called Nuclear Power Trio. So I like kind of help out directing all those videos as well, and editing and all the graphics and all that kind of stuff. But that's all kind of on the DL, because they're high profile guys, and you kind of can't be associated with them.
That's right.
But so throughout that process, probably done like 6 videos that way. And then I did a video for this band King as well before the jfac video. And all this in conjunction with Kyle. He's the videographer. Like his camera work, I'll grab the camera here and there when his arms are tired or something, but his camera and his focus work, because it's all prime lenses, is just fucking amazing. I mean, he's well educated and he's very open with his knowledge and stuff. And so we knew that we wanted to present something. He was like, yeah, let's do a job video. Let's do a job video. And I was like, waiting for the record to be done forever. Once it was finally out, I was like, okay, let's do this. And so it was really fun. And it's great to be able to represent that visual side of things. You know what I mean? Want to do more, definitely, because Johnny and I had such a good time like conceptualizing the music videos and like sending like, all right, you got to watch this, or what if we try to do this scene from The Blob, or like
watch 50s or 80s.
The 80s one.
Yeah.
It was but just their use of the methyl cellulose, which is the goop. And so my gal and I made all this goop here. It was like 4 hours it took us to make, because I made the 25 gallons. And it's so cool to play with. It's so much fun. But so we just, the special effects side of it, all that was super cool. And Johnny was like, oh man, he wasn't here with me with Kyle to be able to do the actual filming. And like, I had to act in the both the videos as well, because I just couldn't get somebody to commit to doing like 7 shoots, randomized. I don't know when, call you up, like everybody that was close to being able to do it. Like, I had one friend who was able to do, the first, be the scientist, the person who was born, whose life was the second. Yeah, exactly. But so Johnny was like, man, I'm fucking jealous. I'm not getting it. He's like, my buddy and I growing up in high school always wanted to, make films. And so we're like, let's make more, because, probably that's going to be one of the more accessible ways for us to continue to have like a representation of the art past when the physical album comes out, and, just people streaming it, is to continue to try to, showcase like a visual aesthetic to it, via the interviews. I would love to be able to like even do a traditional music video where we all get, together and fucking, like a music video, like the band plays. But, there's something cool about not doing that as well, because that's pretty tired as well. And like, it's fun. It's more film-like to do these other things. So, so we're going to look forward to hopefully doing, I was like, I don't have time to do another one. I wanted one. There's like a focus single. I think it might be Into the Crystalline Crypts.
Oh, nice.
For which, I mean, it's kind of weird, because it's like the record will be out. So what is the point of having a focus single for the day? But they still do it, whatever. But so, I guess I just ran out of time. I thought I was going to make, another video and put it out the day the record drops. But I'm like, I just looked at I'm like, 2 weeks might be a little tight.
I like, you see, with like Cattle, they just put out, like a video well after the record for, what is it? Soulstalgia. And that thing came out amazing. You mentioned, the Blob. Did you pull from any other reference points? Do you have any like favorite horror movies or films?
Yeah, I was trying to do like, people asked like, oh, what if you could put this on like some type of like Dark Side of the Moon to Wizard of Oz or something, like what movie could this be a soundtrack for? And I would say Altered States.
Oh,
I haven't seen that one. I saw, was it Lair of the White Worm? I think he also did that one.
Oh, I have to write that down.
Dude, that movie
Lair
is
of the
wild.
White Worm.
It has one of the Doctor Who's in it before that, but I think it's the White Worm. I believe it's the same director who did Altered State, which I have not. I've always seen the imagery of like what the like almost like a goat head on the crucifix and everything like that.
Wow. I think it's one of the coolest movies that it's 1980s, and you could tell like they didn't have a giant budget. And even if you did have a giant budget in 1980 itself, like tough to do some of the stuff that they were trying to do. But so it's still fun though, like the effects that they use and stuff. And it's very, like I remember I heard about that movie forever, but it wasn't until I guess 2022-ish, 2023 that we started really getting into the conceptualization of like the visual element of it and getting into the story side of things. And Johnny had, obviously finalized all his lyrics and stuff. And so when I watched that movie, I was like, Johnny, you got to fucking watch this movie. And he watches it, and it was so funny. He's like, damn, this is like kind of essentially the record. You know what I mean? Like this dude's just experimenting, this brilliant, sort of mad scientist is experimenting with hallucinogens and looking for more and more powerful hallucinogens in conjunction with like flotation tanks or isolation tanks, looking for the root of consciousness. Like he's trying to like go into like cellular memory into God. Yeah, it's fucking cool and gnarly, and it's a horror flick, but it's also not, it's really weird. It's really cool. But that's like a pretty strong connection, I think, to this album is like a very similar story, I guess I would say.
Whenever I've seen clips of that film, it almost kind of reminds me like of like just like it's like a fever dream. It's kind of like Jacob's Ladder kind of thing, where it's like, what the fuck is going on here?
I haven't done that one in a really long time since I was a kid. I need to do that one again.
Terrifying movie.
Yeah, that's rad. I also like what else did we do? Just some other ones that were like not directly connected, but like The House That Jack Built.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
Dude,
that's the Von Trier movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a rough one. Yeah.
Is it as rough as Antichrist or whatever?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, that's a pretty straightforward answer.
Matt Dillon, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like if American Psycho got its masters.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a great description of that.
Right. It's like, oh shit, the architectural principles and like just it's just brutal. I didn't do the director's cut either. I was like, I'm good with the regular cut. Was fucking disturbing enough that I'm like, I know where you I knew where you cut out of, and I'm good.
Yeah. It's Austin. It's a slog to get through. Like not that it's enjoyable in the worst way possible. That's the best way to describe it. But it's like, you're going to watch it and I know what you're going to text me after watching it.
Great. We always do, we do like this month-long list through October every year. We watch like a horror movie like every day. So maybe we
sweet.
Just add that to the list of things to make me feel just awful.
Yeah, exactly. Did he do Midsommar as well?
No, that's Ari Aster.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was also pretty, I'll never remember or forget from that fucking scene. I'm like, why the fuck did the guy jump feet first?
Oh,
we saw that in the theater together.
Stupid. I'm like, what did you land here? I just want my leg to split open, and then the lady come over with the big hammer and fucking.
Dylan was dating someone at the time, and they full on left the theater before the movie. So we just sat in there together, just like.
Like 7 minutes in, she's out because the opening of that is just as shocking as anything. Yeah. And she just looks over and goes, "You can still watch it. It's okay. I'm going to go watch something else. It's all right."
That opening is probably one of the darkest, like,
man.
Feeling
it is
openings
not,
ever.
Not
You're
feel
like,
good.
Oh, God, dude. Yeah. Just the fucking throw up and oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
That's brutal. Feel good family movie. It's a Christmas movie like Die Hard.
We're talking about some wonderful things, having an existential crisis earlier with nostalgia, some really fucked up movies. I just have a few more questions for you, but
sure.
You guys played your first show in like 7 years back last year. Maybe one of the few bands that actually got to play a set with all the weather that happened at that festival. What was that like?
Out. God damn, that was so lucky for us. Cause oh dude, we put so much work into that show, like flying Tony flying in from Ireland on a break from, he had already graduated to become a doctor. But
hell yeah.
Yeah, but just mad rehearsals. Like our buddy Brett from Revocation just fucking went above and beyond out of his way to like do a billion things for us to make that show come off the way that we wanted it to come off. And like lighting guy that had my buddy Evan at Burke had been programming lights for like over 3 weeks, and all this work that went into it. And then like I just feel so bad for bands that put that same level of work into their sets that like are like, no show, sorry, whether and you hear a lot of controversy about that fest, about whether it was like okay, did the county come in and say you guys aren't prepared for any more inclement weather like this, and so you got to shut it, or was it just the weather? It's harder to know. I just feel bad for everybody, but I am super grateful that we were able to, like, we just lucked out, because I remember even we were doing a signing, and then like we were walking back and we see the storm kind of like brewing up, and we're like, oh shit, they're gonna fucking call it, they're gonna cancel it, we're not gonna be able to play. And then it passed, and it was good, and we played, and it was fucking awesome. So I think it's kind of cool to be at least the one like success story of Blue Ridge 2023,
Yeah. Did you were you able to play, did you debut any of those songs for that set?
Yeah, we did Agony, Seeping Storm, which was cool. It's tough. That's a tough one, man. It's a tough fucking track. It's probably the hardest track I would say off the new record. And it came across pretty well. But it was one of those things where you're like, anytime you have new material, you're like, or even just as a band in general, you haven't played in 7 years. Like, you're like, dude, the 5th show or 6th show into a tour is when everything's locked in and the machine's running right. You know what I mean? So it's so tricky to be like, you get one, there's one, you're like, holy shit, there's so many variables that can go wrong at a show, that, and no matter how much practice you do, it's not a show. You could practice for 2 months straight and like every day and be like, it's perfect. And then go up for the show and fucking, there's problems. It's a different environment, but it's still really fun to get that. And hopefully, I think there's one thing that we for sure have confirmed that it's not announced yet for the fall, and then busting ass to try to get something else earlier than that done. But it's really hard because Tony's a practicing physician now.
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah,
congrats to him. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Johnny, Johnny's got a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, and he's like the head coder at this fucking IT. So it's like, it's not just like, oh, you guys like Friday night want to meet up and play that show, or play a concert or a fest. It's like the same thing. It's like, we have to, book a place where we're all in the same spot, because everybody lives all across the world. So you got to book a place where we're all going to be in the same place. We need to book a rehearsal room. We need to rent gear, and we need to rehearse for, 3-4 days. And then, travel to the show, and it's like logistically a lot to do for such a small amount of like actual shows, but, we had such a good time there at Blue Ridge, and the energy and the chemistry was like fucking instantly back. Inside jokes that I didn't even remember, that like, we're just there. It was just like, things just picked right up, from 10 years ago. And so afterwards, Tony even sent an email, and he was like, yo, I've been watching some videos, and I know I got this, doctor thing, but he's like, we have to fucking do more,
That's so cool.
Yeah. So hopefully we get to do more and play more off of Moon Healer. My ideal set is Sun Eater in its entirety, Moon Healer, Moon Healer in its entirety. They'll never let me do that, but I'm just telling the world that that's what I would do.
We can will it into existence. I think if we believe enough.
Yes. Manifest destiny.
If we, we kind of touched on some things you're, alluding to in the next year, some live performances perhaps, but
Sure.
What else do you hope to accomplish in 2024, whether it be with Job for a Cowboy or the numerous other projects you got going on? Like when you get into this year and the nitty gritty of it, what do you hope to get into this year?
Let's see. There's probably going to be some Havok stuff come out that I might have been on I might have been on a track of that. Then I really want to get into, like, I built this crazy sick like video editing computer up after I started getting into the JFAC stuff and just being like having a lot of fun with this program called there was like the Boris effects and like just some of the more like super processor intensive plugins, like virtual plugins and even like 3D elements, Unreal Engine I'm kind of starting to work with, and I really want to like get to dive into that. And so I can, it's like right now I have ideas for videos that I can't with the budget that we've got, like I could call it like an Unreal programmer up and be like, oh yeah, 30 grand and done, but I'm like, we don't have the fucking 30 grand. So I want to like be able to develop those skills myself so that I can really bring what's in my head out into reality. For all bands, I've been having a lot of fun doing the videos. And then musically, I definitely hoping to get out with Job For A Cowboy multiple times. And then I got a bunch of videos to finish for my buddies in Nuclear, and then be doing some stuff with King as well, filming some videos, which is going to be great. We're going out to Maryland to do that. So and it'll end up being a pretty busy video year for me, despite then probably some Havok touring as well. I think we haven't confirmed it 100%, but for all intents and purposes, like we have so much fun together that it's like, usually if he asks if I want to go out, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go have fun. So we'll be doing that. And then, really gearing up for a really fun year in the news. I'm sure we're going to have lots of really great times listening to the left and right go back and forth with each other all year. That's going to be cool.
Any word from the Cephalic Carnage guys? Are you still in touch with everybody?
Yes. Brian is the guitarist is my brother-in-law now. He's marrying my sister.
That's so cool.
We hang quite a bit. Yeah. And man, there's an hour and a half at least of music. That's just been kind of sitting on a fucking computer. We have like 3 songs or 4 songs that are actually demoed with drums as well.
Oh, wow.
And it's just, I don't know if it's just because pot became legal. And so it's like, oh, what's the point? We got we got what we wanted. Here it is, or it's one of those things where it's like probably like every time we say yes to a festival or a tour, like the Cavalier brothers will ask us to go out, or somebody, like anytime we say yes to any of that stuff, it's like any hypothetical, or potential energy that could get put into finishing the songs so that we could book the recording time and get that record out, goes into preparing for the concerts,
Gotcha.
So, but it's cool shit. I mean, it's like heavily reminiscent of like the older, crazier, cephalic, lucid and exploiting type stuff. But with the sort of, mature patina of Misled by Certainty. So I would love to get that done, because that's another thing that kind of like the Job record now. We're like, shit, Job's been 10 years. It's 14 fucking years since we put Cephalic out. So that's kind of always in the back of your mind. Like it's like an unfinished task that you're like, I want to do that before I die, like let's get that. It's just, we only have one more record left with Relapse. So let's fucking get it done.
Let's get it knocked out.
Well, I hope you're enjoying, with all that going on in the back of your head, I hope you really enjoy all of the buzz that this record's been getting. I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you sitting down with us and taking the time to chat with us about it.
Hell yeah.
If you're listening to this, Moon Healer, it's going to be out on the 23rd. Check it out. Metal Blade Records. You're not going to be disappointed. Don't be a chump. Nick, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it really was a pleasure meeting you guys, man. Where are you guys based out of?
I'm in the Chicagoland area. Dylan's just north of Nashville.
Area. Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay, sweet. Well, we play both those places. My family's, my grandpa and grandma on my mom's side were both from Chicago, north side.
Oh,
and
no
south
kidding.
side, so.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So family's still out in I have one cousin live in Chicago, and then the rest of my family's in Wisconsin. So I still make my way out there. And then obviously we play both places.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Anytime we're playing, come out and have a beer and let's shoot the shit.
I would love to, man. Absolutely. You have a great rest of your time. You've been listening to Riff Worship for Nick, for Dylan, for me. We'll see you next week. See ya.
Thanks.